Welcome back inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. All right, Chris, many of the joyous Patriots in the locker room afterwards said they took care of business after they beat Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts 45-7 in the AFC title game. This will be the 6th Super Bowl trip. Amazing, I know, for both Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. For Tom Brady, it is a Super Bowl record 6th Super Bowl trip, surpassing that mark of John Elway. First of all, I thought the Patriots set the tone early on in this game. They were given opportunities by the Indianapolis Colts on the Joshua Cribbs muffed punt. It was Darius Fleming recovering that muffed punt, and really from then on in, it was all Patriots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the Patriots dominated in all three phases. They were able to make the Colts, already a fairly one-dimensional team, coming into this game, make them even more one-dimensional by jumping onto a quick 14-0 lead, 17-7 at halftime, and then it was off to the races from there. This is a team that really dominated in all three phases. They played very well offensively. They were able to get a great performance out of LeGarrette Blount. They were able to take advantage of some special teams miscues. The Josh Cribbs muffed punt, Adam Vinatieri missed a field goal. It set the tone in this one relatively early, and by the time the second half rolled around, Ariz got the pick. They were able to force a couple of turnovers. It turned into a rout relatively early on, and the Patriots were never really challenged in this one.
Really, championship teams, Chris, have that killer instinct. They're going to need that against the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 49 in Glendale in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we saw why, because the Seahawks came back from the dead and beat the Green Bay Packers in overtime 28-22, a miraculous fourth quarter comeback in the final 3 minutes of that game to force overtime. So what the Patriots did today, I think, is going to be very timely in the Super Bowl if they can carry it over. Early on in this game, though, we saw overpasses from Andrew Luck on the very first series. His first two passes, he was throwing off his back feet. He didn't look ready for prime time. When he did make a nice pass to Boom Herron dropped the ball at the Patriots' 5-yard line. That would have set up potentially a game-tying touchdown at that time. Colts missed their opportunities, and the Patriots were there to capitalize.
They did, and there was a feeling, you could tell very early on, that the Colts were a little bit overwhelmed by the stage. They were a little bit overwhelmed by the spotlight, and it showed. And to your point, the drop passes, the overthrows from Luck, they looked a little bit nervous, in the spotlight. And I think the Patriots, again, were able to take advantage of the big moment. They were able to rise to the occasion. We saw a lot of veteran-type plays from this team, whether it was LeGarrette Blount running for over 100 yards, whether it was time to get the plays from Brady. It was not Brady's sharpest game, but at the same time, he was able to connect for 3 touchdowns. They really didn't get any pressure on Brady, despite the fact that Brian Stork was not in there. Then on the other side of the ball, I thought the linebacker stepped up. I thought the secondary played relatively well. When you look at the final stat line, T.Y. Hilton, one of the better young receivers in the league, limited to 1 catch in the afternoon. So I think all around, when you talk about what they did offensively, what they did on defensively, what they were able to accomplish on special teams, this was as thorough an AFC Championship win as I can remember for this team.
Well, and it's the biggest AFC Championship win since the Bills hammered the Los Angeles Raiders 51-3 in Rich Stadium way back in 1990. Of course, we know how the Super Bowl ended that year, so the Patriots are looking for a different result. Going back to the locker room reaction, LeGarrette Blount, he couldn't stop smiling after the game. He didn't say a lot, but he just said, "This is a brotherhood. I'm so happy to be a part of this." And obviously what he's not saying there is, thank God the Pittsburgh Steelers got me and gave me this chance to get to a Super Bowl.
Now, you could look at a lot of guys in that locker room the same way. Granted, there are stars on this team. There's Brady, there's Revis, there's Gronk. There's a lot of guys like Blount with stories like that, guys who've kicked around this league a little bit. Guys that they picked up halfway through this year, Alan Branch, Jonathan Casillas. You can go on down the roster. Again, a lot of this team and the success of this team is obviously wrapped up in the foundational elements. Guys like Brady, guys like Wilfork, guys who've been here for a while. But there are a lot of guys on this team who are going to be going into their first Super Bowl. And the experience of being able to get over that hump, get into the NFL's biggest game, I think is going to be nice for a lot of these guys. And this is the most remarkable journey I can remember a Patriots team having over the course of a season. You could stack it up, really, in my mind, to 2003. The 2003 team that came out of the gate 2-2. They struggled very early. There are a lot of parallels. I wrote this week for WEEI.com. There are a lot of parallels between this 2014 team and the 2003 team. The 2003 team was able to finish it off with a Super Bowl victory. We'll see if this 2014 team has the same kind of stuff.
Another one of those players that you mentioned is Brandon LaFell. He obviously signed his free agent deal here in New England with this specific end goal in mind, that is to get to the Super Bowl. He provided my favorite quote post-game, and that was, after the Kansas City game, everybody was jumping off the bandwagon, and he said, there's 2 weeks to hand out the tickets. There's plenty of tickets for everybody to buy up and get back on that bandwagon as the Patriots head to the Super Bowl. A couple of other images that really stand out post-game, obviously Robert Kraft, he is heading back to the Super Bowl. He was surrounded by reporters and said this is, as you would expect him to, said this is a very special group. My favorite image, though, was Dante Hightower, almost naked, posing with the Lamar Hunt trophy with his teammates, and the teammates, you know, giving him the iPhone and reporters' iPhones and taking pictures with the Lamar Hunt trophy. It was just one of those joyous situations that, you know, we don't often get to see. Get to see it more often than not here in New England, but still, it's one of those rare moments that professional athletes really let their hair down and show their emotions.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking to Devin McCourty about a week or so ago, saying that, you know, this team, we don't know how far we're going to get with this team ever again. You know, this group of guys, you know, there's no sense of, well, you know, if they get back next year, it's going to be the same group. It's a very unique group of guys, and I think that they understand the gravity of the moment, the situation. They understand the spotlight. They understand what's at stake here. And that's not to suggest that the Colts didn't. They're just a younger team. I think this team is very well positioned going into these next 2 weeks. It's going to be fascinating to see how they respond when they're engaged by the Seahawks. I imagine the Seahawks are going to talk. That's part of their MO. That's just who they are. And I'm fascinated to see how they respond. There are going to be all sorts of amazing storylines over these next 2 weeks, whether it's Browner going up against his old teammates, Revis versus Sherman, Brady versus Sherman, Pete Carroll versus Bill Belichick. It's going to be a fun 2 weeks to talk about.
And Brandon Browner also said that he's looking forward to going up against his boys, as he called them. He wanted the chance to get to the Super Bowl last year, but of course he was suspended, and he kind of initially turned back any questions about the past, as he normally does, but then eventually relented and said, this is going to be a special moment because I do get a chance to go up against the team that got there last year, and now I'm with my boys, again repeating the brotherhood theme. Brandon Browner gets that opportunity. Again, Chris, a very historic day here at Gillette Stadium. Tom Brady not only becomes the first quarterback to reach 6 Super Bowls, Bill Belichick passes Tom Landry with his 21st career postseason win. He is now the winningest head coach in NFL postseason history. It'll be a fun 2 weeks, I dare say, as you mentioned, as the Patriots and Seahawks get ready to play each other in Glendale at the University of Phoenix Stadium on February 1st. We'll have complete coverage round the clock on WEEI.com, and obviously the WEEI.com Batmobile is flying us out to Glendale, so we look forward to a week out in the desert. It'll be something to behold for sure. Again, the final here at Gillette Stadium in the AFC Championship game. Patriots take care of business, beating the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 45-7. He's Christopher Price. I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.